Welcome to Linda's TV show. If it is your first time of stopping by or coming across my YouTube channel, you are highly welcome. Please, I beg you for this favor, click on that red button that says subscribe. Beside the red button is a notification bell. Turn the bell on so that anytime I upload a new video, you will be the first person to check it out. I appreciate each and every one of you who always come back to watch my videos. Like you know, I present news on daily basis to you. So after watching the video, you are free to criticize and leave your comment constructively. Share the video. Yeah, you can share it to your family, friends, anybody that you can, so that they themselves will be informed. Now I present to you another interesting or informative video which we are going to watch together. Yeah, I'm going to watch this video together with you. Then we'll come to the comment section.
Senator Godswill Akpabio has condemned the manner in which ex-party orders and court orders are being administered and issued by the court, which according to him are arbitrary and uncalled for. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwoola, too, is worried about the state of the Nigerian judiciary, which is asking that there is a need for a reform. And he has said that the onus lies on the judiciary to always deliver justice to the people of Nigeria. He adds that justice is still a far reality for most Nigerians. These persons, including the NBA president, the vice president of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima, who represented the President Bola Tinubu, and a host of others were speaking at the National Summit on Justice organized by the Ministry of Justice and the Nigerian Bar Association, which is currently going on in Abuja. Let me allow you to, first and foremost, take a listen to the vice president, Senator Kashim Shettima, who represented the President Bola Tinubu, on the plans of this administration in reforming the judiciary. Take a listen to him.
I accordingly urge the leadership of all justice sector institutions to seek a new direction and focus on outcomes by creating a justice system that fully responds to the needs of our citizens, one that serves Nigerians now and for generations to come. The impact of your reform efforts should be visible in terms of improved access to justice, strengthen integrity of justice sector institutions, increase timeliness and quality of justice delivery, accountability and transparency of the system, and ultimately improve public trust and confidence in the judicial system.
All right, that was what a part of what the vice president said. Of course, he was speaking in the words of the president, Bola Tinubu. Now, what struck me in part of that conversation today was one of those things said by the Senate president and also the CJN, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, my Lord Justice Olukayode Ariwoola. I'd like you to listen to what he said.
We must try and curb the misuse of ex parte orders in political matters, particularly by our judges, by the judiciary. To curb this, it is imperative that the National Judicial Council, the NJC, exercises stringent oversight. We recommend prompt and decisive punishment. I was going to say for judges, but maybe for the officers involved, who are found to abuse this authority in any manner. We further propose that the NJC should establish clear and detailed standards, governing the issuance of ex parte orders, accompanied by a defined set of sanctions in the case of violations. These sanctions should be severe enough to serve as deterrents against future abuses.
The quest for justice should not be a privilege reserved for the few, but a right accessible to all, regardless of their circumstances. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to embark on a journey of comprehensive reform to ensure that justice is not only dispensed, but also perceived to be dispensed fairly and impartially.
All right. So some very strong positions there. But the Senate President is a lawyer. The CGN there speaking, of course, and you heard what the Vice President said. Let's get some clarity. And I also will take you at some point to what is happening within the EFCC and Mr. Yahaya Bello. And of course, before then, afterwards, I'll take you to the APC and what is happening with their leadership. But let's dissect what this justice sector reform should look like. I'm being joined by a former vice president of the ECOWAS Court of Justice, Professor Nwoke Chijioke, joins us live here in our studio. He's a professor of law. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight. When you heard what, for example, the Lord Justice Ariwola, what he said about the state of the Nigerian judiciary. He said the onus is on the judiciary to give justice to the Nigerian people. And he said one thing that struck me. He said the Nigerian people are not getting the kind of justice that they deserve. What is your assessment of that kind of statement, coming from the #1 man in the bench?
I think his statement settles it all, because the generality of Nigerians actually have lost confidence in the judiciary. First of all, I think the judiciary needs a comprehensive reform in all aspects, in terms of, for example, the issuance of these ex parte orders. And justice is only done when there is fair hearing. But in terms of ex parte orders, only one party is listened to, and everything is determined on the basis of his own, perhaps, depositions. And while we were in the law school, we were told that ex parte orders should be used sparingly only in exceptional situations, in situations of emergency. But the best is to put the other party on notice, so that he will be in a position to answer to all the allegations that are contained. Secondly,
sorry, apologies for our viewers, because when lawyers speak about some of these terminologies, it's alien to the minds of those who are non-lawyers. An ex parte for our viewers tonight who are not so familiar with some of these terminology. An ex parte means that if I have a dispute with you, you approach the court to say, look, stop Shehu from going ahead with that action because it will hurt me. And the court says, okay, Shehu, you cannot go ahead until 14 days or 7 days, depending whether it's a state court or a federal court, or whatever the nature of the court, the nature of the matter is. So it is an order, an estoppel to say, look, wait until until both of you appear before me. So that is the situation. And there is the concern about the manner in which our courts give this. So the question will be, you collect one ex parte in Jos, you collect one in Kano, you collect another one in Abuja. How come this is happening in our country? Well,
it's really a very great concern for the judiciary especially. In terms of even these courts that give these orders are courts of coordinated jurisdiction. In other words, they have the same powers.
On the same level.
On the same level. They are not,
one is not more superior
than the other. Exactly. And now when there is a conflict, in other words, a court of coordinated jurisdiction issues one order, another one counters it. It brings what I will call confusion and very, very opprobrious in the judiciary. In other words, it leaves the parties the question, which order is to be obeyed? By the virtue of the Latin maxim, omnia presumpta res esse acta. Every conduct by an authority is presumed to be legal, and that all the things that are supposed to be complied with has been complied with. So the two orders are actually binding. But when it comes to questions where there are conflicting orders, it becomes a question of which one will you be in a position to comply with.
But Prof, there is the NJC, which is supposed to be the body to regulate when there is an error. Judges are human beings. They could make error. I could sit in Jos and don't know what my colleague in Abuja is doing. So that mistake might happen. There seems to be a lose in the coordination. The chain of the handshake between the courts are not really there, because most of our courts are not digital enough to know what exactly is happening in their next door. So the NJC also, are they doing the right thing in ensuring That if the courts are making the mistake, to correct them immediately
Of
for the
course,
sake of our society.
Well, the NJC also consists of human beings. And again, is this question of knowledge that like you have said. Is it not better to put the other party on notice on a particular motion, an interlocutory motion, where the two parties comes before the court at the same time? And when they do that, there may be no possibility of one of the parties going to another court and institute an action on the same matter if both of them are before a particular court.
So it's a legal shenanigans.
Exactly.
That is, I mean, that could be stopped by the judges.
Yes, it can be stopped by the judges. Of course, it can be regulated. It can be controlled by the agency by sanctioning, where you sanction judges, even without the knowledge of an existing order. When you sanction judges who have issued these orders, exercising coordinate jurisdiction, then I think it will be perhaps a preventive measure for other judges in subsequent cases not to toe the same path.
I mean, there are legal scholars and there are those who I call legal technicians. A lot of the times in the Nigerian judicial system, the legal technicians always have their ways because our legal system is also procedural, not only in terms of the content and the meat of the law itself as it is also the fact that if you understand how the techniques and the procedure works, on how our courts and their procedures and their rules work, you may be able to have a upper hand. So it's also good to have the knowledge of techniques and the knowledge of the exactitude of the law. But the question here is, where do we go? You heard the Senate president saying this. You heard the synchrony from the CJN. If we are to achieve a proper reform of our justice system, where do we begin from, Prof?
I think in the first instance, it should begin with the appointment of judges. Judges these days are appointed arbitrarily. There should be a procedure through which judges, those who are aspiring to be judges. For example, in the ECOWAS system, you see a procedure where the chief justices of the Federation of ECOWAS member states, when ECOWAS advertises for those positions, any person who is interested in being a judge goes through that procedure of making an application. And it is left for those luminaries to select the wheat from the chaff. And there's a competitive interview from the members, from the applicants of member states who are supposed to produce judges. But in Nigeria's situation, it appears more often than not, it is done through the back door. It is not open. It is not transparent.
So it looks like is an appointment for cronies, for
Precisely.
friends, family members.
And that's exactly what is happening now. If your father is a judge today, you are likely to be a judge tomorrow.
Or your husband is
Or your husband is a judge. Or your brother is a governor. And so on and so forth. Or your brother is a Senate president. Or the House of Representatives. When judges who are supposed to be impartial are appointed in this manner, then the fulcrum of justice is destroyed. In fact, the basic thing is that justice is first rooted in confidence. And confidence is destroyed when right-thinking members of society go about thinking that the judge was biased.
Prof, let me get your view. What is happening between the EFCC and Yahaya Bello? In your own assessment on the face value, what do you think is going on? Because there has been back and forth. In fact, what we hear now is that Yahaya Bello and his team has responded to the EFCC saying, EFCC, you lied. The EFCC chairman came out to say, Mr. Yahaya Bello, come and answer to your matter. I've given you opportunity, called you to say, come to my office. The kind of honor that I'm not naturally supposed to give, I've extended to you. But you, Mr. Yahaya Bello and his team said, EFCC, you never invited me. You have lied. You, in fact, laid siege on my home. But on the face value, give us an understanding of what you think is going on.
But all these challenges is because of what I will call media trial. An institution of justice should be in a position, especially when you are the investigator, carry out a discreet investigation. You do not need to involve the media. For example, the EFCC's chairman's interview yesterday was really, really uncalled for. It was uncalled for in the sense that you do not need to accord any privilege to Yahaya Bello. The law does not require the according or the giving of privileges to persons who are suspected of having committed an offense. That is one. Secondly, the law necessarily does not need, especially in situations of this nature, in corruption cases, you don't need necessarily to make an arrest. You don't need to bring into custody, because more often than not, in corruption cases, they are determined by documentary evidence. If you make out a prima facie case, and you have evidence to make out a prima facie case, why don't you file a case in court and serve the accused person? Why would you, in the first instance, perhaps advertise, publicize? Because that is, in the first instance, unfair hearing.
But this matter started since Mr. Yahaya Bello was still in office.
Yes, but he had immunity.
Yeah, so but the question here is, how difficult is it for Mr. Yahaya Bello to present himself for questioning, for investigation?
But I again ask a question. Must the police arrest you and put you in custody before you are tried? Especially in situations like this. Must you be arrested, incarcerated? If I am an institution, that's the challenges of our institution. If I have sufficient evidence to try you, I make out a prima facie case.
But you look at the case between EFCC and former Governor Obiano, EFCC versus the former governor of Kwara State, Abdul Razak, and you will imagine that this person were invited, called for questioning, and they are walking the street. So what makes Mr. Yahaya Bello exclusive or different from the rest?
Well, because it's Yahaya Bello and the rest, Abdul Razak and the rest of them. Because even where you are accused, even where you are late to have committed an offense, you still enjoy constitutional protection in terms of your fundamental human rights. And therefore, if you think, and that's why the law says, if any person thinks that his rights are being threatened, not even the rights having been violated, but where they are threatened, he has a right to apply to any high court for the enforcement of his fundamental human rights.
See, it does look... if this kind of thing is happening, Prof, the question would be, is Mr. Yahaya Bello hiding anything? Why is he running away from the law?
Well, is he really running away? If you think you have a case against a man, charge him to court.
So you have a problem with the manner in which EFCC is going
I have a problem with that, exactly.
Is the EFCC doing anything illegal right now?
Well, in the first instance, there is trial by media. Ordinarily, fair hearing includes having been in a position to listen to the other party. Yahaya Bello is an ordinary citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, notwithstanding the fact that he has been a former governor. And secondly, do you need an ex parte order of court? I think in the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, you need an ex parte order for arresting a person if you are going to keep him beyond the constitutional provisions of about 48 hours. You cannot incarcerate a person beyond 48 hours before you bring him before.
This is what we saw, which there is a particular notice of withdrawal of appeal, which we understand that the EFCC had put in, signed and processed by the lawyer to the EFCC, Mr. J.S. Okutepa, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Perhaps that's it on the screen right there. What do you make of this particular process of court? Withdrawal of appeal pursuant to Order 11, Rule 1 of the Court of Appeal, giving notice that the appellant intends to and do hereby only withdraw appeal against the respondent in the above-mentioned appeal. What do you make of this?
That is the appeal. Which appeal? Is it appeal with respect to the order given by the Kogi State High Court?
it's a suit on the originating summon. That means he was in connection with what the Kogi State High Court has.
Yeah. Because my question that was
the matter that was appealed anyway.
Should you have appealed against an ex parte order for the enforcement of the fundamental human rights without hearing the substantive interlocutory application?
I mean, you seem to have a lot of problem with the manner in which EFCC went about. I mean, the EFCC chairman came and gave clarity on the manner in which his operation is going. You don't like the manner in which
manner is not, it's inappropriate. He may have the right to do that.
Is it appropriate? Those who obstructed the arrest of Mr. Yahaya Bello?
Well, I won't comment on those matters that I don't have foreknowledge of. Because in the first instance, it was reported that perhaps they stopped the arrest of Yahaya Bello. I won't be in a position to speak on that one because I'm not there.
Are you worried about the technicalities of this matter? Because those who believe, who think that in all of this,
I'm worried so much because one, in all cases, tell me how many persons have been convicted by the EFCC adopting the same process? This appears to be a recurring decimal in their operations. This appears to be a recurring decimal. A typical example is that of the former Attorney General of the Federation, Bello Adoke.
In your own thinking, how do you think EFCC could have approached this?
In the first instance, I think, let's take, for example, the trial of the former President of the United States of America.
That's Donald Trump.
Perhaps, precisely. The Justice Department made their investigation, collected their documents, and went to court. When you make out a prima facie case, what is wrong with filing the charges and serving on the accused, the alleged person that has committed the offense? Why do you go through the rigors of we have done this, we have done that? What of all the other people who were arrested and
because the EFCC said, look, we have all of the facts which presented in our summons to the court. And we presented the facts to the court in those documents. Now, Mr. Yahaya Bello was paying upfront over $700,000 of school fees and allegedly looting the coffers of the
EFCC.
A poor state like
EFCC.
Those are the statements by the EFCC.
Is not a trial institution. That's the facts they have.
But whatever they said is not something.
They should present
it's not judicial, is it?
They should present it to the court. Well, it's for the court to determine whether a pending case involving EFCC, and if EFCC as a party comes before the media and began to narrate and present facts, perhaps in the court of the media or the court of public opinion, perhaps to convict before the actual conviction.
I mean, do you, Mr. Yahaya Bello, think
I am
this
talking
is a political...
only from the point of view of law. I don't want to go into politics and the rest.
He said it's a
of course, at the end of the day, when you normally take the process our institution, like the EFCC is following, it becomes a persecution, not prosecution.
On a final note, how do you think this can be resolved? In the sake, because it's a corruption matter. And anybody who is in public office, the onus is on them to say, I have served, but if there is anything you have against me, here I am.
Charge him to court.
He's been charged to court.
Fine. Let the trial begin. Because once a matter goes before the court, the FCC has no business in investigating anything.
Professor, in the All Progressives Congress, APC, there's been some turmoil, politically speaking, for Mr. Abdullahi Ganduje, who is the national chairman of the party in his home state, Kano. That's where the trouble started brewing from. And there are those who are saying that this has some ripple effect on the leadership of the party at the national level. Mr. Ganduje has been responding to say, look, these are people who are working against the interests of the party and are being used by the opposition in the state. But what is the interest of the APC as a ruling party in all of this? I'm being joined tonight by a former national chairman of the APC Northwest, Malam Salihu Lukman, who joins us live here in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. It's good to see you again.
I'm not former national chairman. I'm former national vice chairman.
National vice chairman, apologies. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
Give us an understanding. This looks like a deja vu, isn't it? Over and over again, we're seeing political, the national chairman of the APC being torn between all of these kind of political crises in their own state. We saw what happened with Adams Oshiomhole. We saw what happened with John Odige Oyegun. And now we're seeing what is happening. And in fact, in Yobe, and the governor of Yobe, when he was the interim national chairman of the party, we saw what was happening with him. It does now look like a deja vu, isn't it?
Well, I think that is the worrisome part of it. It's like we are stuck in one place. And for me, I think it begs the question about whether, as a party, we have made any progress at all. Because when the party was negotiated in 2013, the vision was very clear, which is basically about putting in place a party that is entirely different from what we experience with PDP and other parties, including even the parties that merge. Now, I think a number of things have happened which require us to really go back to the drawing board and review and identify what are really the challenges. Because as it is now, my conclusion is that if we limit it to the issue, okay, let's just get rid of Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje as national chairman and bring a new person, unless you address the challenges. What are the challenges? Look, I have said it over and over again. Some of the experiences under, for instance, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, I'll start from there and walk back up to the leadership of Comrade Adams Oshiomhole. You will discover that they're practically the same. In the case of Senator Abdullahi Adamu, it was a case of completely frozening the organs, the structures of the party. Meetings were not taking place. Throughout the tenure of Senator Abdullahi Adamu, between March 2022 to July 2023, we had only one national executive committee meeting.
That's the NEC meeting.
NEC meeting.
That's the second highest organ.
The second highest organ. And ideally, it should be taking place every 3 months.
Every quarter. That's 4 times a year.
And there are statutory obligations that require pronouncement of that particular organ with respect to governance of the party. Issues, for instance, management of fund, issues of, for instance, even having a national budget, the question of what you do with respect to influencing policy decision, how the party is implementing its campaign promises and what have you, is require pronouncement of name.
And you became an activist within the party as a member of the NWC.
I have been an activist even before then anyway. But the main issue is that we changed the leadership of Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and none of those today, 8 months into the leadership of Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, no NEC meeting has taken place, no any other meeting has taken place.
The same disease.
The same problem of National Working Committee usurping the powers of other organs of the party continued. And
without check.
National Working Committee is just an administrative organ. It's supposed to be implementing decisions taken. It's not to make decisions. Now, there is even a critical organ because it is expected there will be contestation. Arising from contestation, there will be disagreement. So you need an organ which should serve as the conscience of the party, always intervening and settling disputes. And that is the National Administrative Committee, which is the variant of Board of Trustees. It has never been inaugurated. So in terms of even party, and this, when I say it has never been inaugurated, since the party was formed.
As the party's account being audited?
We were told, and you remember some of the debate we had when I was in the National Working Committee. Senator Abdullahi Adamu and Senator Yola Mitchell said they have submitted the audited account to INEC.
It's not made public.
It's not even, before you submit any audited account, there has to be a decision of, for instance, how you appoint the auditor. Who is the auditor? It's the powers of NEC. At best, National Working Committee should propose, and then
it should be ratified by the NEC.
Ratified by the NEC.
The auditor begins his work.
Exactly. Throughout, up to today, I'm not aware of anywhere where, for instance, the financial statement of the party was presented. And part of the challenge, and this is the point which I never shy away from discussing it, you ended up because issues of finance are not sorted out. Question of party funding is never
everything is opaque.
Sorted. Party leaders ended up becoming like beggars. So capacity, instead of becoming umpires over elected representatives, they become houseboys and housegirls of elected representatives. And for me, this is why I say we have to go back to the drawing board. In 2012, 2013, when APC was being negotiated, you remember there was a lot of internal debate which aggregated national debate. And it regenerated expectation, so much so that Nigerians were looking forward to a situation where a new leadership produced by the APC for the country would radically depart from what we used to have.
Well, unfortunately, that is not happening.
That did not happen. Now,
so the APC is somewhat like almost the same thing with the PDP.
That is the challenge. And I think for me, because we are faced with this reality, it presents an opportunity for leaders of the party to really go back and renegotiate the party. Because as it is, look, when you have a political party that doesn't meet, it's as good as not having a party. We are reduced to another election platform. And the danger is that even in managing an election platform, we have produced almost a disaster. You know, remember in 2019, the court disqualified us from presenting candidates in Rivers State.
In Rivers, in Zamfara?
In Zamfara. It was even after we won the election.
It was all nullified.
It was nullified. Remember the recent one in 2020 in Bayelsa, where you have a situation whereby
on the eve,
just 24 hours before inaugurating the governor.
Of the governor-elect.
And he was he was completely is it disqualified or his election was nullified yeah. Largely because of his deputy. If you have, and it highlights the point about poor party governance. And sincerely speaking, my appeal to our leaders is that we must see this as an opportunity to go back to the negotiation table.
Mr. Lukman, you will imagine that someone like President Bola Tinubu has had a long battle in the days of the AC, the AD, I mean, with the likes of Chief Ayo Adebanjo and some of the founders of the early parties where President, the governor then, Bola Tinubu emerged, and eventually the departure and how he has been able to make that party somewhat like a regional party that eventually now liaised with the ABGA, the PDP, and forming the APC in 2013. And you will wonder that he perhaps has an understanding of internal party governance. Do you think it can make that kind of difference? And if it does, where does it start from?
I'm very confident that President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu can make the difference. But he needs to be strengthened. In the sense that leaders of the party and all of us in the party need to really demonstrate support in terms of the direction the party should be going. Unfortunately, when leaders sit back and all they want is business as usual, we end up weakening the hands of Asiwaju. That is what happened in the case of former President Buhari, whereby we ended up rationalizing basically all decisions he has taken, whether it is right or wrong. We turned out to be weak in engaging him because largely, and this is where the problem is, majority, if not every party leader, the aspiration is to become appointees in government to hold positions, and the inability to take risk to engage the president, for instance, in terms of getting him to take the right decision.
And you look at Second Republic politics.
That is it.
Where the party is the fulcrum. The party is the mother of political elected political.
I can't remember
persons.
which book. There is a case whereby I think it is the Second Republic NPN, where Shagari was being quoted to talk about a leader of the party from Northwest who did not vote for him during the party primary. But in order to really ensure that he surrounds himself by people who can tell him to do the right thing, he brought him into government.
At that time, Mr. Lukman, party leaders would sit at the eye table. Elected officials will sit right in front of them. But the reverse is the case. Elected officers will even come late to party meetings.
For me, this is where I believe President Asuwaju, and that is why some of us are very vocal early in the tenure of President Asuwaju. We believe he's done a very good opportunity to write his name in the sun of history, democratic history of this country, by correcting a number of these anomalies. Because, I mean, some of the problem of discipline, whereby you have elected representatives, I just saw in the last segment where you are talking about Yahaya Bello. I mean, there are Second Republic parties. None of the Second Republic parties will allow what is going on in the case of Yahaya Bello, for instance. And for me, really, this is where, if you remember, I keep raising the point about APC coming up with a kind of code of conduct for elected representatives and leaders of the party. Because look, leadership is about trust. It's about really a mandate which you must demonstrate capacity to handle. Now, a situation where we take all of these things and just look the other way around and believe, look, this is what, when you look at what is going on in many states, whereby current serving governors are making rubbish of their predecessors.
It's happening in your state of Kaduna.
I mean, it's not just almost everywhere. Somehow, it's largely because of the mismanagement of political relationship. And somehow because the main focus is about really election. What happened in between election is being subordinated to almost not being considered. So for me, look, sincerely speaking, my appeal to APC leaders, and it's encouraging that we are debating these issues. My appeal to APC leaders is that we must not limit the issues of what we do today to just the question of changing Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje as the national chairman.
You think that
we must renegotiate the party? We must create a new framework rather than a situation where you have imperial leaders, which is the point you are talking. You know, we have really collective leadership. I mean, a kind of partnership whereby leaders of the party relate with each other on equal basis at all levels. Now, it's not that we don't have structures that will facilitate that. We do. I mean, if you look at our national caucus, state caucuses, that is what they are designed to achieve. But largely because, again, we have mismanaged ourselves. We are not even talking about that. Look, before 2015 election, I can tell you, our national caucus was meeting almost weekly. But part of the tragedy that has happened immediately after the electoral victory of 2015, national caucus stopped meeting.
Let me ask you, how do you hope that this issue, if the national chairman of the party is being embattled and is being dragged by the state government over issues of allegations of fraud when he was in office, how do you think that the party can handle it? Because that's the number one person in the party.
I think, look. It's unfortunate we are talking about this thing. My honest recommendation will be that we must push Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje to renegotiate relationship back in his state. Because
You think this is political?
It's political. If you don't approach it politically, you will never take it away. You can replace Dr. Abla Ganduje, and if capacity to get leaders to do the needful back in their base is not addressed, it will continue to haunt us. Now, I said...
Do you think it's his relationship between him and Kwankwaso?
I mean, no more, no less.
How can that be resolved?
I mean, look. I have said it over and over again. For me, it was an avoidable crisis which emerged largely because the party didn't handle it well. When, for instance, Kwankwaso was still in the party and Ganduje was the governor of Kano State, don't forget, these are people, these are leaders who have been together for decades. You know, at least they served together for 8 years as governor and deputy governor. Even within the intragonum of 4 years when they are out of office, they were together. When Kwankwaso was Minister of Defense, they were still together. So I think somehow, unless we prioritize issues of getting leaders, political leaders of the party, to manage relationship, we'll continue to have all these things. I mean, if you take, it's not just that. You remember we have had the same situation in Imo. We have had the same situation in Ogun State. I can count how many states we have had leadership problem, which we have mismanaged as a party.
But
now,
to wrap up, because of our time, if Mr. Ganduje is being dragged in Kano State, you may not know peace, because that case would go on and on. That means the APC will not know peace.
No, that is the reality.
What is the exit strategy?
Look, like I said, for me, we must accept that things are not all right, even with APC. Forget about even the Ganduje matter in Kano. The reality is that, as it is, we have problems that require us to come back to rebuild our party. Rebuilding our party is about recruiting new members and reorganizing the leadership. And for me, we need to open up in such a way that we negotiate with even leaders. I mean, look, yes, Kwankwaso is in. The ambition of Senator Kwankwaso is to become president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Where he is today, I can confidently say it will be almost like a mirage for him to become president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I mean, tell me how. I mean, look, it will take years of building and negotiation across the country, which may outlive his lifespan. And if we are to fast track it and open our party for him to come back in such a way that we renegotiate his relationship with Dr. Ganduje, and across the states, we also renegotiate relationship between leaders and bring in new forces, Nigerians are likely to even have more confidence in the party, you know?
Mr. Saliu Lukman is a former national vice chairman of the APC. Thank you so much indeed for your time and your thought. Being an activist on the leadership and the manner in which they...
Hello, my wonderful people. As we have finished watching this interesting video, please, I want to see your comment, your contribution, your opinion in the comment section.
It's Rizmani on the beat.
Let us do it constructively.
And you're welcome to Linda's
Tell
TV
me
show.
What you think about this video,
the home of news and analysis,
and also
where you get your information about the happenings in the globe, especially in Nigeria.
Please remember to subscribe.
Listen to the sound.